Welcome back to another edition of Practice by Numbers, digging into Practice by Numbers with Laura from Front Office Rocks and Rohit from Practice by Numbers. So welcome back again.
Hey guys.
What we're going to talk about today is PhoneIQ, and I actually am going to learn this along with you guys because I haven't used this in my office, and I'm very excited to learn more about it. So I'm going to let Rohit get started and talk to us about this. Is just one small part of Practice by Numbers in whole, but it has to do with our phones. Are our phones being monitored? Are we answering the calls? How are the calls going? It's huge. I say the phones are the most important piece of technology in your dental office. So I'm going to let Rohit get started and give us an overview, and I'll interrupt like a good office manager does and try to get clarification anywhere we might be needing some. So Rohit, can you tell us more about this, please?
Yeah, absolutely, Laura. So as you said, phones are one of the most important pieces of technology in your office, and I call phones the heartbeat of your office. So if you don't monitor and if something bad happens to your phones, things can go really bad. Mm-hmm. And if you don't monitor it on what's going on, and it's also not just monitoring, it's utilizing your phones to its maximum potential. Mm-hmm. So there's two aspects of a phone. One is when an existing patient calls, you want to maximize the opportunities that you have to interact with that patient. And if you fumble around for information, that patient wants to get off the phone, most of them anyway. You might have some talkative patients that want to stick around and talk with you, but most patients are pretty busy. They're calling you, they want to make an appointment, change an appointment, they want to get off the call as quickly as possible. So this will help you maximize and engage in a discussion with your patients.
Okay, so I'm going to add to that because many people watching this are probably not, they're probably dentists or assistants or some office managers, but not on the phones, okay? So what Rohit is talking about is we want to maximize that phone call. When a patient calls our office, we don't want to just handle the one thing they're calling for. We want to see everything that's going on with that patient during that call. We want to know, do they have a balance? Do they have outstanding appointments? Does their family members need appointments? And when we're in a practice management software, and I've worked with Dentrix and I've worked with EagleSoft, all of that data is in different locations around our practice management software. So I have to click to appointments, and I have to go to the account screen to see the account. Then I have to go to the family screen to see if they have family members and if they have appointments. And it's really kind of hard to do, especially when you've got 3 or 4 people around you and you're working in other people's accounts. So what this does is this takes all of the data that's in our practice management software and brings it to a unified screen so that your team can be more efficient on every single phone call with the patients.
Right, exactly. Before we jump into giving a demo about what it looks like when the phone call comes in, I can maybe spend a minute on what the main screen looks like.
Great. And
this is the home screen, and every time you log into PhoneIQ and Practice by Numbers, it's showing you what's happening today in the office. So today in this particular office, you have whatever the production was, what's scheduled for the day, what is the projection to be done for this month, and what they have done. So production for the day, scheduled amount, production, projection for the month, and how much was month-to-date production. So this is some very basic statistics that it's giving you so that you know what's happening. Are you guys on track or behind? It's also telling you how much more do they need to do on a day-to-day basis for the rest of the month for them to achieve that goal. It's also showing you how many new patients have been added today. Extremely critical. So between how many new patients were added and how many new patients were missed, you have to keep track of that on every single day. So if I go back to a previous day, it goes back and says there were 2 new patients missed yesterday.
What does that mean? That the potential new patient call wasn't handled, wasn't answered?
A potential new patient call was missed. They were not answered, or they were not, maybe they were called back, maybe they were not called back, but that call didn't convert.
Okay. Oh, okay. Okay.
And how do we know calls that are new patients? It's a heuristic. We look at any number that's not in your practice management system and any number that has not called you before, since Practice by Numbers was installed. We assume that there's a very high likelihood that that person is a new patient. And we filter out all the 1-800 numbers and call toll-free numbers and all, so we don't consider those as new patients. So tracking that is important. But at the same time, we also show you what's happening in the office in terms of phone, and that's very critical. So right here on the phone, 524 today, there were 34 incoming calls, 35 outgoing calls. 5 of them were missed, and 1 was returned. Only 1 out of the 5 were returned. And
so we're gonna do a video specifically on the importance of that. So if that doesn't stand out as important, we're gonna talk about in another video why you want to track that and why you want to make sure that they get returned.
Right. And how much time are they spending on the phone in minutes, out minutes, and all that. So if somebody tells you, hey, I was on the phone whole day yesterday answering phone calls, you can just go back to yesterday and say, okay, all right, let me check how much time they were on the phone. Looks like there was 57 minutes incoming calls and 37. That's only an hour and a half.
So that's huge. And for dentists, if you're watching this and you haven't worked with practice by numbers yet, one of the biggest things I feel is that dentists, you guys are in the back, and when you come up front, you say to the girls, what have you been doing? They say, we've been busy. I've been on the phones all day. Up until this, I've never had a way to really track how much is the staff on the phone? How long are they on their calls? How many calls? Because maybe the phones were crazy. Who knows, right? But there hasn't been a way to track it. So this is a really good way to go, well, let me actually see so you can hold your staff more accountable.
Right. Okay. So now let me go back to the original discussion that we were having about maximizing time with each patient.
Perfect.
As a patient calls in, so let me simulate a call. Let's say this patient calls in and there's a simulated call that's going to show up on the right side right here. Incoming patient call went away. You see on the PhoneIQ app, it has transitioned into their patient file. And the left side is completely adaptive. So it changes depending upon the patient. What information do we feel it's important to provide to the person who's looking at this? And here we are saying there's a treatment value, there's a pending treatment for this patient that has not been scheduled. And because of that, we are showing that there's no regular appointment where there should have been if there was pending treatment. And we're also telling you for this particular patient, there is no recall appointment. And there are patient alerts, there's some service alerts, and alerts is something that patient alerts are coming directly from your practice management system. So there's nothing special about it. Service alerts and document alerts, we should spend another video on that because that can be very useful for practices who are trying to track certain kinds of patients. Okay. And then it will also show you any missing information. So if they have maybe a referral source missing, if they have emails missing, if they have their cell phones missing, it will show up right here so that you can respond to it quickly. But then,
so I was just going to say, I'm trying to show this value to doctors as they're looking at this so that your team, you understand how this is going to help your team. A patient calls in, let's say they've received a statement and they want to pay the statement. So your team right now answers the phone, they figure out what the balances amount is, let's just say, and they're running the credit card. But many times they're not looking at the same time, does this patient have outstanding treatment? Do we have appointments scheduled for this patient? And that's the opportunity we're missing. We're collecting the $36 balance, your staff's hanging up, and we missed these opportunities on the left. So this is where it's really going to be helpful for your team.
Right, and it's not just the opportunity on the patient, it's the opportunity on the family itself, right? So if I look at, let's say, a different family, I'm gonna pick a different person over here. And let's say this patient had called in. This patient has $10,000 of pending treatment. But on this one glance, it's telling you that they have, out of their family, they have one person who doesn't even have a recall appointment set up. So this would be an opportunity for them to say, can we set up a recall appointment, or we haven't heard from, let's say this is their son, we haven't heard from your son and if I double click on this thing, I can bring up the son's file. The last time the son was in January, but their next recall has not been set up. Maybe it's for a good reason, maybe the son's off to college, but it gives you the opportunity to have that discussion. Without this, it'd be just do whatever transactional nature of the call was, and you'll be done with that call.
Awesome.
Okay.
We're going to dig more into this in other videos, but the one thing I want to point out that I think is huge is, especially if you're looking at it and you just started implementing this or thinking about implementing it, like I don't have this yet in my office, but Rohit was showing me that little pop-up that comes up, what you do is you set it up so it pops up on all the computers that people potentially answering the phones would want to see it. And then they can decide, you can decide in your office, is everybody going to see it to show up on their computer, or is just the person answering the call? Because one of the things that you might be thinking is, well, I've got patients in front of me. I can't have all this information in front of me too. So it actually makes your team more effective. And before I pick up the phone, it helps if I can know who I'm about to talk to, or if it's, you know, a potential new patient. Now, you should answer the phone like everybody's a new patient. That should definitely be part of your requirement, but this is really going to help your team be more efficient, effective when they answer the phone. So do you have anything else to add just on this basic overview of why this would be a benefit to have in the office?
Yeah, one more thing I want to add is that you also want to know if the incoming call is an existing patient or a new patient, because most offices that I've seen are understaffed. So the difference between an existing patient and a new patient can be if you let that phone to go to the voicemail, if there's absolutely no way you can pick it up. And if it's
don't let your phone go to the voicemail. Don't listen to him.
But if you absolutely must have to, there are few calls like this one that's coming in that you should never let it go to voicemail, because this is a number that has never been seen in the practice. And this number, no matter what happens, you have to pick up. Laura, completely agree. You shouldn't let any call go to voicemail. But I would say it's even more important for not to have your new patient calls go to voicemail.
Right.
And this helps you identify those.
And then with the system, do we need any certain phone system?
Nope. It works with 100% of regular landlines. Okay. And works with over 90% of voice over IP phones.
Okay. All right. Perfect. And there's a whole bunch of time between, you know, practice by numbers and the other parts of practice by numbers with the PhoneIQ. But in this, we just wanted to give a good overview of what your team, when you implement this, will be seeing, and the benefit behind having this pop up before your staff answers the phone. It's going to make them more efficient and effective. And your practice management software is great, and it feeds all this information, but it's not helping your team get all of this taken care of. So if you don't have something like this in your office, this definitely may be something you want to look to implement, because I know the teams would love it. So thank you again for joining us on this. We're going to get more into this in other videos, so we want to make sure we understand all the parts of it. But Rohit, thank you for this today. Do you have anything else before we sign off?
No, I think we're good. Thanks a lot, Laura.
All right, perfect. Great. Thanks for joining us, guys, and we'll see you in another video.
All right, bye.
Bye.